Hi, writers and readers. How's everyone doing today? Sorry if the lighting is a little bit off. I hope you guys are doing really well. It's a rainy Sunday, which is kind of like the perfect time to do a live stream, to do some writing, to do some editing. So that's kind of what I've been doing today. What have you guys been up to? Also, yesterday I went to, I'm in this group, Sisters in Crime, and they are a mystery writer group. And I don't necessarily write mystery, but I do like to talk to other writers and just hear their experiences and stuff like that. So they had a really wonderful speaker named Rona Goffstein, and she writes as Rachel Kenley. She does say that on her site. I'm not like outing her or anything. So she was really fantastic. And she shared a lot of stuff about author soft selling so that you're not constantly being like, buy my book, which I don't do anyway. And I'm not a fan of. And I know most people are not a fan of. So that was really, really interesting. She's going to be at, if you're interested in seeing her, Liberty State's Fiction Writers Conference, which is in March, I believe. So if anybody out there is interested in seeing her and seeing that particular thing, she has a two-part presentation about that. So that's pretty cool. Hi, Amber. Hi, Travis. Hi, Anita. Okay, today I wanted to talk about writing bucket lists. So this is something that I had started thinking, oh, I really want to make sure I do this writing or that writing in my life. And so I started making a list because I was afraid to forget, pretty much. There are some things with reading that I also have like a sort of reading bucket list too. But with the writing, it's also because when I first started as an indie author, I thought, okay, I'm gonna pump out the Dark Victoriana collection. I'm gonna go straight into like this film noir thing and this medieval thing, and like I had this whole plan for that. But these books, for the Dark Victoriana collection, take longer to put out than I had thought. For some reason, I was almost thinking I would be writing these as if I had just nothing else to do. So that was a big mistake, and that's something about planning, really. That's more like realizing how long these things take in planning. So I have been doing my research for the next Dark Victoriana book 3, which I'm really excited about. It's a surprise book, so I'm extra excited about it, something I had not planned. But I'll be putting that out. And so that's how I was originally thinking. But then, things come up. I was thinking, oh, I want to add all these other books to the Dark Victoriana collection, but I don't want to forget about this, that, and the other writing goal that I have. So that's how I came up with the writing bucket list. And I hope that you guys, put some thought into that too, because it's just sort of like I don't know, it makes me feel like I have plenty left to do all the time. And like if I'm frozen on something because I just don't have enough time to do the proper research, I can just head into, this bucket list and see what I wanted to do and start working on that. So some of these are things that, like I said, they're works, and some of these are just random types of experiences I would like to have in terms of writing. So here's what I have so far. The first one on here is, hey, Joe. The first one on here is write a whole book on lunch breaks. And I'm reading. I have a literal list next to me. So write a whole book on lunch breaks. This is a dream of mine. I really have this dream that I'm going to just take a lunch break, even if it's not every day, because that's not always doable for me in my job. Take a lunch break and bring my computer or a journal and just write a book. Just write it all on lunch breaks. No other way. I'm not writing it outside of that at all. And so I have this dream that I'll just finish a book that way. And that kind of goes with another one. The second one on my list is write a whole book with no revisions until I'm finished. So write it straight through. And those two kind of go together. If I did write a book all on my lunch breaks, then it would be really cool if I didn't do any of that revision stuff, the self-editing stuff that I shouldn't be doing, Sometimes I'm really good at avoiding that, and sometimes I'm really not good at it. And especially in like the more complicated books where it is a lot of research and a lot of making sure I don't contradict myself or, things along those lines. I've experienced where I don't self-edit, and sometimes it can be painful going back and trying to fix those mistakes. So it is sort of like a, what should I do type of thing. Should I self-edit? Should I not self-edit? Everyone says don't self-edit. So I would like to write one book where I just go straight through and stop editing myself along the way and just see what happens and see how it comes out and just have it there, have it done. I think that would feel really good. So the next one on my list is write a book heavily based in beautiful surroundings. I have a basic plan for this. I have a notebook for it. Of course I have a notebook for it. It's a really, really pretty one. It is one that I bought when I put out my call for journal, for people to submit their journals for me to buy. I was looking for some very unique, different kinds of things, having trouble finding them. And so I put out like this call for anybody who makes journals to let me know, like, what are their journals like, and show me a picture and tell me how much it costs. And that way I could pick something I liked. Well, I ended up liking 3 of them and bought 3 of them. I wanted to also get away from just buying from Barnes & Noble and go to like indie people like us. So I already have this gorgeous journal for that. And you can check that out. I have a video on that on YouTube. So, and it's a beautiful one that has like crystals and on it, like, you know, on the cover, and like this beautiful gold tones and green tones and like a bigger gem type of thing on it. It's just beautiful. And so I'm ready to write it. I've got it, you know? So now it's just a matter of actually writing the thing. And I have, like I said, some ideas already written in there. It's just a matter of actually doing the writing. And Amber says, I love the idea of indies supporting indies in all different types of businesses. Yeah, I mean, I really love doing that. And it's not always easy to sort of think outside the box in that way. We're all used to going to these different stores and like buying a journal, or, you know, for example, you go to Staples, you go to Barnes & Noble, wherever you go, maybe Papyrus, wherever you go. But then I was like, wait a minute, that's why I'm missing the boat, because I'm not getting those people who actually make these things and come up with original ideas. So I'm glad that you like that idea too, Amber. Okay, so the next one, and like I said, with that book, with the beautiful surroundings, I haven't decided. I'm assuming it would have to be like a fantastical type of book, but who knows? I'm not going to limit myself quite that way yet. The next one I have is to write a fantasy book. So this is something I really want to do. And my big inspiration for that is Brandon Sanderson. He is my absolute favorite fantasy author. I think he's totally brilliant, and he does an amazing job of having something fantastical that is also believable and relatable in our everyday lives. It's not so far out there that it's difficult for someone who is not super into fantasy to like read it and get. But also he includes a lot of real life social issues and psychological issues, all kinds of stuff. I'm reading his 3rd book in the Stormlight Archives. That's my favorite series of his right now, and I love it. So Joe says, will it be epic or dark? That's a good question. Joe, I actually have an entire chapter of it on Wattpad. I already did start writing it, and I was super careful with it, which I really enjoyed. I have to say I really enjoyed that. And so far, Amber says, does Christy write anything other than dark? That's true. It will most likely turn dark if it's not already. So far, it's kind of interesting. It seems a little more towards the epic side, but as Amber says, I have a very hard time staying away from the dark side. I just can't do it. It's really hard for me. Everything ends up that way. And even when I think of a new idea, when I try to think, what could the ending be? It's always something really dark. I can't help myself. So, you know, it's an unanswered question. The aim right now is epic, but we all know what I'm like. So like I said, I already started it on Wattpad. So we'll see where that goes. I kind of really want to go back to it because I have some good ideas that I'm really excited about. It's just a matter of having the time, making the time. Peter, Christy is secretly Darth Vader, said Lord Christy. Nice. Yeah, that's what's happening. I get everyone to join the dark side with me. So yeah, that's exactly right. Another one on my bucket list is write something where water plays a major role. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that I posted a few water-related pictures, underwater types of things. And there's just something about underwater that has always fascinated me. I do like to swim. I don't do it very often, but I do like to swim. And I love just pictures of all that exists underwater. That's its own, of course, world under there. There's a whole own ecosystem and life going on down there. And I just love the idea of something underwater. So I can't say I put like a ton of thought into it, but I do collect those kinds of pictures like on Pinterest. I'm not sure if that's a public board or not. It may not be. But I have put a number of things on Instagram and maybe some haikus to them here and there, but just like sort of collecting Aquaman is looking for a screenwriter right now. There you go. Oh my God, you never know. I could come up with something that would really work for that. That's my next job. There you go. No, thank you for telling me that, Joe. That's actually really cool, and it's cool to know that things are. I gotta look that up. I can't say I'm too familiar with Aquaman, so I gotta look that up. Dolphins at a water park. Yeah. Nice. Okay. I also, on my bucket list, I have write a book that takes place anywhere between the 1920s and 1950s. Okay. You guys probably know by now, and a lot of people on Instagram and Pinterest probably know, I really love old movies. I love them. I watch them every weekend. I try to make time to watch 2 at least every weekend. It's usually 2 every weekend. I love exploring the good ones, the bad ones, the in-between ones. And I love the whole feel. I love film noir. But I do like all different kinds of genres there. And I really want to write something that is in that sort of, at first I started out with, it has to be film noir. And I want it to be something that epitomizes film noir. But then I was like, I started developing this idea that would just be sort of like the spanning series through the 1920s and 50s with following a particular woman, but then it ends up following probably her family as she has a family. And I really like that idea too. If you've ever seen the movie Sadie McKee that has Joan Crawford, it's from 1930 something. It's a very, very early one, very early in her career. And it's one of my favorite movies, actually. Yes, you can poke holes in it, but it is a really good movie. And it's something that I consider to be epic. And epic to me means that it goes over a large time span, or it goes through like a character's or multiple characters' major life changes. And that makes it epic to me. So I really like those kinds of epic movies. I so enjoy them. So I wanted, my idea from film noir changed and morphed into that. So maybe I would do both of those things, but I definitely want to do something that time period. I've spent so much time in that time period just through movies. And, I have a couple of books. One that was an amazing present from Joe. And I love that book. I keep it like sort of facing out on a shelf so I can always look at it and remember it. But, I'm working my way slowly through that, enjoying it. It's great. It's really fabulous. So anyway, that is one of the things on my bucket list. Another one is to write a wholly literary book. So I am super into literary fiction. Contemporary fiction many times turns into literary fiction, especially if you're Margaret Atwood. But to write something that is just literary for literary's sake and just being literary, I think that would be awesome. And it's a goal of mine. When I was in college, I majored in English Lit, and I really, after college, like maybe a few years after college, I developed this different kind of writing that I was calling symbolic experimentalism, because it's heavy in the symbolism. It does tell a story, but you have to read into it pretty deeply. And I think it's a little bit different than most genres that I've seen that could be somewhat like it. Personally, I couldn't find anything quite there to like what I was writing. And the way I was writing it was the same feel of it every time. It was different, of course, but it was the same feel. And I couldn't find anything that felt the same. So that's why I named it that. And I don't know that it would necessarily be like that. If you ever read my piece, Oxygen Defined, which is in Guinness Journal, it was published there. It's on my website. You can just go to christystratus.com and look at my published works, and there should be a link to it there. So if you ever read that, it's that type of thing. And so to write a literary book, I don't know if it would be quite that heavy in the symbolism where it's entirely based on symbolism, but that is a dream that I have that I would really love to do. Another one on my bucket list is write a whole book in only cafes or other places that aren't home. Similar to the lunch breaks thing. It could be libraries, it could be whatever, but I could just go everywhere. And the idea is, again, just to like write something in other areas. It's just something that appeals to me. It sounds interesting, especially since I do most of my writing, I would say, at home. I do a ton of note taking and, random writing random scenes that I think of outside, in my phone, for example, or I bring a journal and I do that. But to really write something totally elsewhere would be awesome. So the next one is writing a book or a short story based solely on a pre-made cover. This is something I really want to try. I want to see, there are so many pre-made covers out there that are really cool. And I know that sometimes they reuse Shutterstock images. So I would probably look for that and try to avoid that, because that's definitely not my favorite thing. But to look at a pre-made cover, a lot of times I get a ton of ideas and I say, oh, if I was writing that kind of thing, I could use that cover. So why not look at the cover and write the thing, whatever it is. So I would love to do that at some point. I think that's fun. And it's sort of similar to having a writing prompt, like a visual writing prompt, and then just writing something by that. I think that would be a lot of fun, and then publish it. And there you've written something that you like, this is me. So I've written something that I like, and I've got a cover that should be significantly cheaper than the ones, for example, for Dark Victoriana collection, which is a lot more expensive because they have to be done from scratch. And I don't want it to look like anything else. Anatomy of a Darkened Heart was heavy in original illustration, actually, which I don't know if you can tell by looking at it, but that is the case. So you're never going to find one that looks like that. Another one on my bucket list is to fill up every page of a notebook. So as you guys know, I collect notebooks. I love notebooks. They're one of my favorite things. And I buy new ones whenever I have a new idea that I want to start in there. And so a lot of the time I make my way a certain amount of the way through it, but I also take a lot of notes in my phone, just whatever is convenient. And I do a lot of writing, of course, on my computer. So to actually fill up a notebook all the way to the very last page would be awesome. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever run out of pages in a notebook yet. So I think the one that will be most possible for is the Dark Victoriana collection, because I have one notebook for that. And I mean, I'm writing a ton of books in that collection. It's turning out to be much more than I had originally planned. So I've got like a lot of writing inspiration in there. As you guys know, I print pictures and put them in there, so I can like just have them in that notebook while I'm, going wherever I go. And then I write down checklists of what I still need to do in the work, things that I may have missed, things that I don't want to forget. I write full scenes. I edit full scenes. And I just have other assorted stuff, especially notes for like future books in the Dark Victoriana collection. And even when I might publish, you should see the number of publication schedules I have in there. It keeps changing. So I think that's the most likely where I'll fill up a notebook. And I'm really looking forward to that day. It just feels like it would be satisfying. The second to last one on my writing bucket list is do something under a pen name. And so I was thinking that one of the things that's a little bit tricky for me is if I were to write something on the lighter side, it wouldn't really go with my brand. It wouldn't be what people expect from me. And so that would be the perfect time to use a pen name. So I'm thinking that, if I did write something lighter, which I do have, of course, I have a few ideas for pretty much everything you could think of. But anyway, why not use a pen name? That would be perfect. And then I would be totally open about the fact that it's me, but then you could know that anything published under that pen name is a little bit lighter, for example. I just think that also it's something that I would like to do. It just sounds like something, a lot of authors do it. They have specific reasons, but it's something that sounds, again, like a lot of these things feel like they would fulfill something in me, and so I would like to try that. I think that would be fun. I have a name picked out. I'm not telling you what it is. You're going to have to wait and see. Cliffhanger. And then the last one on my writing bucket list, this one is kind of a silly one, but anyway, it is on my writing bucket list. So there is a line from the TV show, As Time Goes By. Marnie will appreciate this. So I have to make sure I share this with her, Marnie Kate. And it's this thing where one of the characters in there is an author, and his publisher is trying to get him to publish more books. He published the first book and it was really boring and he doesn't want to write anymore, but his publisher is trying to get him to write more books. And his publisher brings this book over and says you need to look at this book, read this book. I think you could really do something with it. Adapt it. It was from a Romanian author or something like that. But I really think you could do something like with this. And the line that they read over and over, that's sort of a running joke in the show, is I am alone with my sheep, but my sheep are not alone with me, and they joke about it the whole time because it's such a ridiculous sounding line. And actually, if you look it up, a ton of people have looked it up. They're trying to figure out if it's a real book, and it's not. It's just something they made up to be silly. So one of the things on my writing bucket list is to write something that includes that line. I just want to be able to include it, but include it seriously, like really seriously. So anybody who likes that show and reads my work, whatever it may be, could be like, oh my God, are you serious? How did that make it into this work? But I think it would be so funny. Amber says, I remember that line. I love that show. Yeah. So like I said, it's a funny line and it's supposed to be a joke, but I want to include it seriously in one of my works. I really want to do this. I think it would be such a laugh. Like I really do. So that's my writing bucket list so far. And if you've never, and if you're somebody who, and Amber actually said this to me a different time when I was talking to her about this separately, she was saying that she doesn't love the name bucket list because it always, it sort of insinuates like death, you know what I mean? So I totally understand that. I know a lot of other people feel that way. What you could just call it a writing lifetime list, because that's kind of really what it is. It's like, I want to do these things in my lifetime. This is what I want to achieve, you know, and some of them are light and some of them are serious, but they're things I want to achieve throughout my life. So for my writing, definitely, Amber says definitely more positive sounding. Yeah, I think so too. And, you know, does anybody know where bucket list came from? Because I kind of want to look that up now. It's sort of an interesting, like, kick the bucket, I guess. Is that right? Bucket list. I think it came from a movie. Oh, really? Yeah, Amber says she thinks it came from a movie. So I'm definitely going to look that up afterwards because I've always sort of wondered, and even saying kick the bucket, why bucket lists? I don't know. So I'll definitely look it up and see what I find. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I said, I also have a reading lifetime list that I'm developing. That one's slower because I'm a slower reader, but at the same time, there are things I want to do. Like, for example, I really want to, don't ask me why, this just seems like something I really want to do, probably because I've seen it in a million movies and now I want to experience it. I really want to go out in the morning, like on a day off, obviously, buy a newspaper, have like a big breakfast and coffee, read the entire newspaper, and that's it. That's on my reading bucket list. Why? I don't know. Because I've watched a million movies that have it, and now I want to do it. For some reason, this sounds really good. So I'm going to try that at some point. But like, you know, you could do this for anything where you don't want to forget all the goals you have, all the ideas you have, and you're sort of afraid that maybe somewhere in the mix of life and everything else, it might get lost. So definitely write your list and keep it on hand and keep adding to it. It's kind of exciting to just have it sitting there. For me, it's not stressful. It's something that sits there for me when I am not sure what I want to work on next, when I'm stuck, when I don't have much time, whatever it is. And I look through it and I say, wow, I have a lot to look forward to, you know, and that feels really good to me. So thank you so much for spending time with me. I had a great time talking about this, and I hope you guys will make one as well. If you're watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments if you've ever made one before or what you might put on yours, because I would love to hear it. I think it's a really interesting thing. So I will see you guys soon.